Talking about mental illness, whether it be yours or just in general, is really hard. For this video, I'll be showing you a time-lapse on how I sketched and painted my latest vent art I titled Starlight Healing, and I'll be talking about how I wrangle my demons, known as mental illness. Before I start, I want people to know that I'm not a professional and have no medical background in the mental health field. What I say is merely my own thoughts and opinions on the subject. So that being said, I want people to know that this is really hard to talk about, but I personally feel that in order to overcome certain things, it needs to be spoken of. A bit of background. Around 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, also known as manic depression, along with minor anxiety and PTSD. From the months that followed before I had seen a doctor, I was struggling with self-destructive thoughts. I was crying for unknown reasons. I was easily irritated, angry a lot, and very happy the next. I was falling out of love with things that I was very passionate about, such as writing and drawing, and I hardly ever slept because I was having night terrors every time I had fallen asleep. It was so bad I forced myself to stay awake for 2-3 days, and that, along with my lack of appetite, made me physically ill. I was getting sick almost every week with fevers and a cold. Long story short, I was going through a really bad time. I was being thrown into situations that mounted up to my inevitable mental break. I was in a toxic relationship with almost everyone that I had surrounded myself with, people I trusted, people I loved, and it seemed like I just wasn't having a break. When I was finally forced into seeing a doctor with my sister by my side, whom had done nothing but pester me about looking for professional help, I was finally taking a healthy step forward into my recovery. How we handle our mental illness differs from one person to another, and while the approaches that I will be talking about works for me, it may not work for others, but there's one thing I know for sure works for everyone. And the first on my list is to seek professional help. I know a lot of people who struggle with mental illness tend to fight the urge or the need to seek help. People who struggle with depression, anxiety, or any other sort of mental illness tend to think that they can handle it themselves because of years of experience. Ultimately, it is a fear of wasting people's time. At least that's how I felt. I didn't want to waste money and time, and I just wanted to handle it by myself to see if I can get any better using the tools that had often worked for me before I even got help. But the moment that the said tools no longer helped, I was in a state of panic, and I just had no idea how to go about my day with destructive thoughts and everything that came along with it. So finding a doctor was really good for me, and it will be good for you too. I know it isn't cheap, and I know some people don't have the supportive group around them to encourage them to go to a doctor. And for that, if you're one of those people, I'm very sorry. The last thing you need right now is to feel alone and to feel as though you're helpless in the situation. Please don't think that you don't need help when you're already struggling with situations that may cause your own pain, and never think that people don't care, because they do. You'll be surprised at how many people care and love you and want the best for you. Seeing a doctor isn't as bad as you imagine it to be. When you're speaking straight to a professional, you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone who have trained and went through years of learning to help people who struggle with mental illness. They're not going to judge you or belittle you or abandon you. They're there to understand you and do their best to help in your healing journey. So please, if you're going through something right now and you've lost control or you're confused about your situation, the best thing for you to do is to seek professional help that can diagnose and prescribe medication that will help you deal with your illness. Note that you should never self-diagnose and self-medicate. I know a lot of people who do this. Please don't. Oftentimes people go on the internet and try to figure things out on their own. This can be dangerous. Your health is very important, and the only people who can really help you are licensed professionals in the field. Another thing you should keep in mind when you're under medication is to continue seeing your doctor and only stop taking your medication until they tell you to. I know people who stop midway thinking that they're no longer in need of it, and it leads to them going back to square one, and that's the last thing you need as someone who's trying to move forward. You don't want to take a few steps back now that you're so close to recovery. So please, once you've found your doctor and you're on medication, follow their advice. The next thing on the list is to find a healthy output. You've probably heard a lot of people talk about this. This can vary from person to person, but with me, writing and exercise works the best. I am still struggling with pushing out art after 4 years now, and it's really frustrating that I'm not as creative as I once was. The last thing I need is to handle thoughts of self-doubt or frustration, so I just let it out by sweating or writing, and these are the two things that really help with keeping myself leveled. I have stopped taking medication around the same time, or the same year rather, that I have been diagnosed, and have not touched mood stabilizers or antidepressants. I was ready to leave that behind with the green light that came from my doctor. It wasn't easy, but I managed to go through weeks, and weeks turned to months, and months have now turned to years without medication. Do note that if it does get really bad, it's best to go back to your doctor. Oftentimes, they will put you back on medication that you need. I'm all for it because I don't want to hurt people I love the most. They didn't cause me the pain that I'm dealing with, so they don't deserve the pain I may cause them or may have caused them. It's what's best for you and for the people around you. A healthy output can be a lot of things that you need to figure out by yourself. So this is something that you need to find for yourself. Finding something you love to do, something that makes you feel good about yourself. It can be writing, reading, painting, exercising, cooking, makeup, video games even. Things that can pull you away from the brink of a mental breakdown. You need a healthy distraction. What I don't advise you to do is to drink alcohol. It is such a downer, especially if you're on medication. So please avoid drinking alcohol. My father had a drinking problem once my sister and my mom passed away, and it only made it worse for him. And I hate thinking about those weeks of someone I love so much being so much pain that was worsened by rum. Drinking is something you need to avoid for a time. Recreational drinking should be fine. Drinking in moderation is okay. But if you turn to a bottle of alcohol to soothe your pain, you're more likely to lash out on yourself and on the people around you. So you need to find something creative or fun to do, and if creative activities don't work, then maybe something fun to watch can be helpful to boost your happiness. Gaki no Sakai has helped me through some dark times, and especially when I didn't feel like doing anything at all, I just wanted to stay in bed. So I watched grown men getting their ass beat every time they fell for a gag. It's the original Try Not to Laugh, basically. If you like Japanese humor, then you're going to love Gaki. One of the more important things you need to do when you're struggling with mental illness or a mental breakdown really is to remove yourself from toxic situations. And I hate talking about this, but here we go. Whether it be a toxic lifestyle, a person, an environment, you need to get away from that as soon as possible. One of the things I did was unlatch myself from the job that was really bad for me. The people within it were great, except for a couple of few that were absolutely awful. And the moment I quit, I was slowly getting better. I had to unlatch myself from people as well, people who just didn't help me at all, and it just made things worse for me. I like to think I did what was best for my own sake. I'm still trying to find a path of forgiveness for them, but it's really difficult. The years have passed and I'm dealing with it pretty well now that I've found love and trust in friends, family, and a partner. That is really good for me. Maybe too good. Some friends I found online and some I have in real life. My partner, who had been my online friend for 5 years before we got together, had been or is such a great support system. He's been nothing but patient, and though I mean, the start of our relationship was really rocky because of my own issues, he has not once given up on me. He has never let go of me, no matter how difficult I was getting due to my trauma. He's a real keeper, guys. It's going to be really rough once you've let certain things go. If you're dealing with an unhealthy relationship, whether it be romantic or not, you just have to find the strength to walk away from that, because your mental health is far more important than unstable relationships. Who and what you surround yourself with is very important in terms of your own healing. You just need to find the courage to break away from that, what's bad for you or for both parties. Lastly, it's important to understand that There are certain things you just can't control. You need to find forgiveness for yourself. See, the reason as to why I'm so adamant in finding professional help is because after I spoke to my doctor, I understood what was going on with me. The better you know what you're dealing with, the more likely you understand how to deal with the situation. If you know your enemy, you'll know how to overcome it. I've learned that there are certain things that may trigger me and that what I should avoid. And if I'm starting to slip, it's easy for me to get my footing and find ways to get back where I left off. If that can work for me, it can work for you guys as well. I hope it does. Mental health is such a sensitive topic. It's hard to find people who you could trust, talk to, or be with. There's a lot of uncertainty and fear that comes along with dealing with a disorder that has the power to control you and how you live your life. Understand that there are just some things that you can't control, situations you can't change, and that's what's in the past needs to stay there. You also need to understand that people can't help you if you can't help yourself. Real healing comes from within, and while your friends, family, and loved one may act as your support system, it's really you that have the real power to yank yourself out of the hole that you're in. If you can't forgive people, then learn from it. Know what you did wrong, know what they did wrong. Try to come to terms with that and heal at your own pace. Don't rush yourself, because it may take months and years to stitch yourself back up and love what's broken about you. And if I and many other people who have gone through so much worse can find that they can love themselves again and build strength where weakness once was, then you can find that you can love yourself, and you can find that for yourself as well. I know this was a long video. I had written a script in order to keep my thoughts organized, and this has taken far longer than I had expected. I've done the screen capture a week ago, I think, and it's only now that I've decided to finally talk about this, because I'm so scared that this may do more harm than good. And I understand that people have really strong opinions on the internet, but like I said, it's best to talk about it rather than to avoid it. Remember that you are loved and you will get through this, and there is life alongside your own personal demons. You just need to learn how to control them rather than have them control you. So I hope this has been helpful in any way. Maybe after this you feel less alone. If you're dealing with any sort of mental issues, or this has encouraged you to take better steps into your healing journey. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.